The grandfather clock in the foyer struck 6 in the morning, and Julian Blackwood was already awake, staring at the ceiling of his master bedroom. Christmas Eve had arrived, though you would never know it from the stark, minimalist decor.
We need to discuss the holiday plans seriously.
No tree,
I agree, let's address the
no
important
lights,
details now.
no festive cheer. Just marble floors, designer furniture, and the suffocating silence that Julian preferred. He rose from bed, pulled on his tailored suit, and descended the grand staircase. Margaret, his longtime cook, had already prepared his breakfast with military precision. The 60-year-old woman knew better than to engage in cheerful morning conversation. "Good morning, Mr. Blackwood," she ventured carefully. "Morning," he grunted, taking his seat at the long dining table that could easily accommodate 20, but only ever seated 1. In the gardens, Thomas trimmed the hedges despite the December chill. Robert polished the luxury sedan in the garage. Everyone moved like ghosts through the mansion, careful not to disturb the brooding master of the house. Julian had built his technology empire through ruthless focus and emotional detachment. At 34, he had everything money could buy and nothing that mattered. But he told himself he preferred it this way. Emotions were messy. People were disappointing. Solitude was safe. His phone buzzed. The employment agency. "Mr. Blackwood, we found a replacement for your personal housekeeper position. She can start immediately." "Fine. Make sure this one lasts longer than the previous 6. He hung up without waiting for a response. The last housekeeper had quit after 3 days, unable to handle Julian's impossible standards and constant criticism. She was the 6th in 4 months. 2 hours later, the doorbell rang. Margaret answered and returned with a young woman who seemed to radiate sunshine in the gloomy mansion. "Good morning. I'm Sofia Martinez, the new housekeeper." "Wow, this place is absolutely stunning." Sofia was 26, with warm brown eyes that sparkled with genuine enthusiasm. Dark hair pulled into a ponytail, and a smile that could light up a room. She wore simple jeans and a cheerful red sweater, completely unsuitable for the formal atmosphere of the estate. Julian emerged from his study, already preparing his usual intimidating speech. He stopped at the top of the stairs, looking down at the energetic woman below. "You must be the new employee," he said coldly, descending with measured steps. Sofia looked up, and her smile somehow grew wider. "Hi. You must be Mr. Blackwood. It's so nice to meet you." "There are rules in this house," Julian began, his voice glacial. "First, silence. I do not tolerate unnecessary noise, chatter, or disruptions. Second, perfection. Your work must be flawless. Third, invisibility. Do your job and stay out of my sight. Understood?" Sofia listened attentively, still smiling. "Absolutely. Though I do have one quick question." "What?" Julian asked impatiently. "Do you ever relax those shoulders? They look really tense. You should try yoga, or maybe just a good laugh." Margaret gasped from the doorway. Thomas, passing by the window, nearly dropped his pruning shears. Robert froze mid-polish. Nobody spoke to Julian Blackwood like that. Ever. "Excuse me?" Julian's eyes widened. "The shoulders. You're carrying them up near your ears? Must give you terrible headaches." Sofia demonstrated, scrunching her shoulders up comically. "I don't have headaches," Julian said through gritted teeth. "Not yet, but give it time. Anyway, where should I start? I'm ready to make this place sparkle." Margaret quickly intervened, leading Sofia away before Julian could fire her on the spot. The cook showed her to the staff quarters while Julian stood in the foyer, completely bewildered. This woman was either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. Either way, she would not last the week. The morning passed with Sofia bringing an unexpected energy to the mansion. She hummed while dusting, chatted warmly with the other staff, and treated every task with genuine enthusiasm. "She's quite something," Thomas remarked to Robert as they worked outside. "The boss is going to explode," Robert predicted, but Julian found himself distracted. He kept hearing her voice, that cheerful laughter echoing through his usually silent home. It was annoying. It was disruptive. It was strangely compelling. By mid-afternoon, Sofia had finished cleaning the entire second floor. She was sweaty and exhausted, her red sweater clinging to her from the exertion. "I'm going to take a quick shower," she told Margaret. "Of course, dear. The guest bathroom upstairs has fresh towels." Sofia gathered her things and headed to the luxurious bathroom. The hot water felt amazing on her tired muscles. She shampooed her hair, humming a Christmas carol, completely at ease. After drying off, she wrapped herself in the plush white towel and opened the bathroom door, ready to head to her room to change. That's when she saw it. A spider. Not just any spider. A massive, hairy, 8-legged monster crawling across the marble floor directly in her path. Sofia's eyes went wide. Her heart stopped. She had an absolutely irrational, completely overwhelming fear of spiders. It did not matter that logically she knew it could not hurt her. Terror gripped her instantly. "No, no, 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 no," she shrieked. The sound echoed through the entire mansion. Margaret dropped her spoon in the kitchen. Thomas looked up from the roses. Robert abandoned the car, and Julian jumped from his desk chair, his pulse racing. What happened? Was someone hurt? He ran from his study, taking the stairs 3 at a time. Something was wrong. Someone needed help. Meanwhile, Sofia did what any person with arachnophobia would do. She ran. She bolted from the bathroom, clutching her towel, her wet feet slipping on the polished marble floor. The spider seemed to follow her, or at least that's what her panicked brain insisted. "Get away, get away," she yelled, running full speed down the hallway. Julian reached the top of the staircase just as Sofia came careening around the corner. Their eyes met for a split second. His widened in shock. Hers widened in horror. "Look out," she screamed. But momentum had already taken over. Sofia's wet feet completely lost traction. She slid across the floor like a hockey puck, arms flailing, unable to stop. Julian tried to step aside, but she was moving too fast. They collided with tremendous force. The impact sent Julian backward. He lost his balance completely and fell, landing hard on the marble floor at the top of the stairs. Sofia crashed on top of him, her full weight pinning him down. Time stopped. Julian lay flat on his back, completely winded. Sofia sprawled across him, wearing nothing but a towel that had loosened considerably in the fall. Her wet hair dripped onto his face. Her body pressed against his from chest to thigh. Their faces were inches apart. Her brown eyes stared into his gray ones. Both were breathing hard, shocked into silence. Julian felt everything. The warmth of her skin, the softness of her body, the rapid beating of her heart against his chest. Or was that his own heart? He could not tell anymore. "I am so sorry," Sofia whispered, her cheeks flaming red. "There was a spider and I panicked, and I didn't mean to crash into you." She tried to push herself up, placing her hands on his chest for leverage. But her hands slipped on his expensive shirt and she fell forward again, her face nearly touching his. "Sorry. I'm sorry." She tried again, but the marble was wet from her dripping hair and body. Her knee slipped, pressing her lower body more firmly against his. Julian could not breathe, could not think, could not move. This beautiful, infuriating woman was practically naked on top of him, and every nerve in his body had come alive. "I can't get up," Sofia said desperately. "The floor is too slippery," I noticed. Julian managed to rasp out. Their eyes locked again. Something electric passed between them, something neither could ignore or explain. "It was a really big spider," Sofia said softly, as if that explained everything. "How big?" Julian heard himself ask. "Enormous. Terrifying. Definitely plotting my murder." The corner of his mouth twitched. "Almost smiled," Sofia noticed. "Did you almost smile just now?" "No, you did. I saw it." Finally, carefully, Julian helped her find stable footing. They both stood slowly, Sofia clutching her towel with both hands, her face the color of a tomato. "I should go put on clothes," she mumbled. "That would be appropriate," Julian agreed, his voice rough. Sofia hurried to the staff quarters, leaving wet footprints the entire way. Julian stood alone in the hallway, his heart still pounding, his body still feeling the phantom warmth of hers. Margaret appeared at the bottom of the stairs, having rushed up to investigate. She saw Julian's disheveled appearance, his flushed face, his complete lack of composure. "Everything all right, sir?" "It was just a spider," Julian said weakly. "A spider," Margaret repeated, a knowing smile playing at her lips. In the staff quarters, Sofia sat on her bed, face in her hands. What just happened? She whispered to herself. Because something had definitely happened. Something that had nothing to do with spiders and everything to do with the way Julian's eyes had darkened when he looked at her. The way her body had responded to his, the electric current that had passed between them in that moment. And downstairs, Julian returned to his study, but he could not focus on work. All he could see was Sofia's face inches from his, her eyes wide, her lips parted. For the first time in years, Julian Blackwood felt something other than cold detachment. He felt desire. The towel incident changed everything. The next morning, Julian woke thinking about Sofia's body pressed against his, and he immediately took a cold shower. This was ridiculous. She was his employee. An employee who had been working for him for exactly 1 day, but when he came down for breakfast and saw her in the kitchen chatting with Margaret, his chest tightened in a way that had nothing to do with his usual morning irritation. "Good morning, Mr. Blackwood," Sofia said brightly, though her cheeks turned pink at the sight of him.
"Morning,"
he muttered. Sitting at the table, Margaret served his coffee, watching the two with barely concealed amusement. The tension between them was thick enough to cut with a knife. Over the following days, something shifted. Sofia stopped being merely cheerful and started being deliberately provocative. She wore her jeans a little tighter, bent over a little lower when picking things up, stretched a little higher when dusting shelves. Julian noticed everything, and he responded in kind. After his morning workout, he started walking through the house shirtless, claiming he needed water from the kitchen. His sculpted abs and muscular chest were impossible to ignore. Sofia would fumble whatever she was holding, her eyes tracking the movement of his body with transparent hunger. "Hot today, is it not?" Julian would ask innocently, watching her struggle to form words. "Very hot," she would manage to whisper. The staff watched this dance with fascination. "They are going to combust," Robert said to Thomas one afternoon. "I give it 3 more days before something happens," Thomas replied. Margaret just smiled knowingly and continued preparing meals, secretly hoping these two stubborn people would figure things out. The games escalated. Sofia started humming love songs while cleaning. Julian started finding excuses to be in whatever room she was working in. She would lean close to him to dust nearby surfaces. He would stand unnecessarily near when asking questions about household matters. One afternoon, Sofia was cleaning windows in the library, stretching to reach the top panes. Julian sat on the sofa pretending to read reports, but his eyes never left her figure. "Need any help?" he asked, his voice low. "I can manage," she replied, fully aware of exactly what angle she was providing him. She reached higher, her shirt riding up to expose her lower back. Julian gripped his papers so hard they crumpled. Then, on Wednesday afternoon, everything intensified when Christopher Hayes arrived. Christopher was Julian's business partner and best friend. At 35, he was charming, outgoing, and everything Julian was not. Where Julian was ice, Christopher was fire. Where Julian brooded, Christopher laughed. "Julian, my man?" Christopher called out, striding into the foyer with his usual confidence. He stopped short when he saw Sofia arranging fresh flowers on the entry table. "Hello there," Christopher said, his smile widening. "And who might you be?" "Sofia Martinez. I work here." She smiled back, finding his warmth refreshing. "Sofia, what a beautiful name for a beautiful woman." "I'm Christopher Hayes, Julian's significantly more charming business partner." She laughed. "Nice to meet you." Julian appeared from his study, his jaw already clenched. "Christopher, you are early." "Wanted to spend more time in such lovely company," Christopher replied, his eyes still on Sofia. During lunch, which Sofia served with Margaret's help, Christopher was relentless with his attention. "So, Sofia, where are you from originally?" "A small town about 3 hours from here. I moved to the city for better opportunities." Left behind a boyfriend, I am sure. Someone must be missing you terribly. No boyfriend, Sofia said, smiling. Julian's fork scraped against his plate with excessive force. Impossible, Christopher continued smoothly. A woman like you? Single? The men in your town must be blind. Sofia blushed at the compliment. Christopher was easy to talk to, made her feel valued and seen. So different from Julian's hot and cold behavior. Tell me, Sofia, do you like Italian food? There is this amazing restaurant downtown. I have never been to a really fancy Italian place, she admitted. Then I must take you. How about Friday night? It will be my treat. Julian's hands slammed down on the table, making the dishes rattle. She has work to do. Everyone froze. Margaret, serving wine, paused mid-pour. Robert and Thomas, visible through the window, stopped their conversation. It is just dinner, Julian, Christopher said, though his eyes gleamed with understanding. He had figured out exactly what was happening. She is an employee. She has responsibilities here. On her day off, Christopher challenged. Her schedule is not your concern, Julian snapped. Sofia felt anger rise in her chest. Excuse me, but I can make my own decisions about my free time. Julian's eyes snapped to hers, dark and stormy. Can we speak privately? No, Sofia said firmly. If you have something to say it here. Christopher leaned back in his chair, thoroughly entertained.
Work for me, Julian said tightly.
Your focus should be on your duties. My focus during work hours is on my duties. What I do on my own time is my business. Christopher is just trying to toy with you. Hey now, Christopher protested, though he was grinning. I am perfectly capable of handling myself, Sofia said, standing up. And I do not need you acting like you own me. I never said I own you. Then stop acting like it. Her voice rose. You have been playing games with me for days. Hot one minute, cold the next. Making me confused and frustrated. And now, when someone shows genuine interest in me, you throw a tantrum like a child. Julian stood as well, his height imposing. I am not throwing a tantrum. You are. Christopher asks me to dinner, and you lose your mind. Why, Julian? Why do you care? The use of his first name, the raw emotion in her voice, made his defenses crack. Because I do not want him touching you, Julian said, his voice rough. I do not want any man touching you. The room went completely silent. Why? Sofia demanded, her eyes bright with unshed tears. Give me one good reason why. Julian closed the distance between them, his eyes burning. Because I cannot stop thinking about you. Because every time I close my eyes, I see you on top of me in that towel. Because the thought of Christopher or anyone else taking you to dinner, touching you, making you smile, makes me want to break things. Sofia's breath caught. Then why have you been pushing me away? Because you deserve better than me. The words burst from him. You deserve someone like Christopher. Someone warm and kind and good with people. Not someone broken and cold who has forgotten how to feel anything. I do not want Christopher, Sofia said softly. I want you. Julian shook his head. You do not know what you are saying. Stop telling me what I want. Her voice shook with emotion. Stop deciding for me. I am a grown woman. I know my own heart. And my heart wants you, Julian Blackwood. Grumpy, impossible, infuriating you? Christopher quietly excused himself, slipping out of the dining room with a satisfied smile. Margaret ushered the other staff away, giving them privacy. I will hurt you, Julian said, his voice breaking. I do not know how to do this. How to be what you need. Then learn, Sofia said. I am not asking for perfection. I am asking for honesty. For you to stop running and just try. Julian reached out, his hand hovering near her face, but not quite touching. I am afraid. Of what? Of feeling this much. Of needing someone. Of losing control. Sofia took his hand and placed it against her cheek. Sometimes losing control is exactly what we need. For a moment, he let himself feel the softness of her skin, the warmth of her. Then, as fear overwhelmed him again, he pulled away. I cannot, he whispered. I am sorry. Turned and walked out of the dining room, leaving Sofia standing there with tears streaming down her face. Margaret came back in and wrapped an arm around the young woman. Give him time, dear. He has been alone a long time. He is scared. Maybe he is right, Sofia said, wiping her eyes. Maybe I do deserve better than someone who cannot even try. But even as she said it, her heart ached for the broken man who had just walked away. Julian locked himself in his study for the rest of the day. He did not come down for dinner. Did not respond when Margaret knocked with food. He sat in the dark, his head in his hands, knowing he had made the right choice but feeling utterly miserable about it. And in the staff quarters, Sofia cried herself to sleep. Wondering why loving someone had to hurt so much, Christmas Eve arrived with dark clouds gathering over the Blackwood estate. The weather forecast predicted a severe thunderstorm, the kind that rarely hit the area. By evening, the first drops of rain had begun to fall. The atmosphere inside the mansion was equally stormy. Sofia and Julian had barely spoken in 2 days. She did her work efficiently, but without her usual warmth. He remained locked in his study, emerging only when necessary. This cannot continue, Margaret said to Thomas and Robert as they prepared to leave for the evening. It is Christmas Eve. They should not be alone like this, both miserable. Nothing we can do, Robert said sadly. They are both too stubborn. At least we tried, Thomas added. By 8 o'clock, all the staff had departed to spend Christmas Eve with their families. Margaret was the last to leave, and she hesitated at the door. Mr. Blackwood, I left dinner in the kitchen. Please make sure you eat something. Thank you, Margaret. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, sir. To both of you, she glanced meaningfully toward the staff quarters. Before leaving, the mansion fell silent, except for the increasing rain against the windows. Sofia sat in her small room, trying to read, but unable to focus. Julian remained in his study, staring at his computer screen without seeing it. At 9:30, the storm intensified. Thunder rumbled in the distance, growing closer with each passing minute. Rain pelted the windows like bullets. Wind howled around the mansion's corners. Then, at exactly 10 o'clock, lightning split the sky with a deafening crack. The power went out instantly, plunging the entire estate into darkness. In her room, Sofia screamed. She had been afraid of thunderstorms since childhood. Her rational mind knew she was safe inside, but terror did not respond to logic. Another crack of thunder shook the house. She found herself trembling uncontrollably, tears streaming down her face. She fumbled for her phone, but the battery was dead. She had forgotten to charge it. Darkness pressed in from all sides. Lightning flashed, illuminating her room in brief. Terrifying bursts. Thunder boomed again, so loud it felt like the sky was splitting open. Sofia pulled her knees to her chest, sobbing, completely paralyzed by fear. Meanwhile, Julian had stood when the power cut out. He had emergency flashlights in his study, and quickly located one. His first thought, the one that came before anything else, was Sofia. He told himself he was just checking on an employee, but his heart was racing as he climbed the stairs to the staff quarters. Lightning flashed, and in that brief illumination, he saw her door was closed. Then he heard it, a sound that made his chest tighten, crying. Sofia was crying. He knocked. Sofia, are you all right? Another massive crack of thunder. Sofia's scream pierced through the door. Julian did not hesitate. He opened the door and shined his flashlight inside. Sofia was huddled on her bed, arms wrapped around herself, shaking violently. Her face was wet with tears, her eyes wide with terror. Sofia, he said softly, entering the room. I'm sorry, she gasped between sobs. I know it is stupid. I know I am being ridiculous, but I cannot help it. I am so scared. Thunder boomed again. She flinched violently, a small cry escaping her lips. Something inside Julian broke. All his walls, all his defenses, all his carefully constructed distance crumbled in an instant. He set down the flashlight and sat on the bed beside her. Without thinking, without hesitating, he pulled her into his arms. I have got you, he murmured. You are safe. I promise. Sofia buried her face in his chest, her whole body trembling. He held her tighter, one hand stroking her hair, the other wrapped securely around her waist. I am here. I am not going anywhere. Thunder followed immediately, indicating the storm was directly overhead. Sofia whimpered, pressing closer to him. Julian continued holding her, whispering reassurances, feeling her gradually begin to calm in his embrace. Her breathing slowed, her trembling eased. "Why are you afraid of storms?" he asked gently. "When I was 7, she said quietly, lightning struck a tree in our backyard while I was playing outside. It fell and nearly crushed me. I have been terrified ever since. It must have been horrible. I know it is irrational now. I know the chances of it happening again are tiny, but the fear is still there. Fear is not rational. It just is." He pressed his lips to the top of her head without thinking. "And you are not ridiculous. You are human." She pulled back slightly to look at his face in the dim glow of the flashlight. "You came to check on me." "Of course I did. Why?" Julian cupped her face with one hand, his thumb wiping away her tears. "Because I am a fool who has been lying to himself." "About what?" "About everything. About being fine alone. About not needing anyone. About you deserving better." He took a shaky breath. "The truth is, I have never felt about anyone the way I feel about you. And it terrifies me more than any storm ever could." Sofia's heart pounded. "Julian, I spent years building walls to protect myself. After my parents died, after relationship failed because I could not open up, I decided it was easier to be alone. But then you crashed into my life, literally, and suddenly those walls mean nothing." Thunder rumbled, but Sofia barely noticed now. She was focused entirely on him. "I am not good at this," Julian continued. "I do not know how to be the warm, charming man you deserve. But I know that I cannot spend another day pretending I do not want you, that I do not need you." "I do not want warm and charming," Sofia whispered. "I want honest. I want real. I want you, even knowing I am going to mess this up sometimes. That I am going to be difficult and stubborn and probably drive you crazy." She smiled through her tears. "You already drive me crazy, but I choose you anyway. If you will have me." Julian's answer was to kiss her. His lips met hers softly at first, tentative, as if he was afraid she might disappear. But when she kissed him back, her hands sliding into his hair, the kiss deepened. All the tension, all the longing, all the denied attraction poured into that kiss. They broke apart, both breathing hard. "I am still scared," Julian admitted, "of failing you, of not being enough." "Then we will be scared together," Sofia said, "because I am scared too. But I would rather be scared with you than safe without you." He kissed her again, and this time there was no hesitation. She melted into him, and he held her like he would never let go. The storm raged outside. But inside that small room, two people found shelter in each other. They spent the night talking, sharing stories, learning about each other beyond employer and employee. Julian told her about losing his parents young, about the loneliness of building a business empire with no one to share it with. Sofia told him about growing up poor but happy, about dreams deferred but never abandoned. They fell asleep wrapped in each other's arms. The storm finally passing as dawn approached. Christmas. Morning arrived with clear skies and sunshine streaming through the windows. Julian woke first, looking down at Sofia, sleeping peacefully against his chest. For the first time in years, he felt completely at peace. She stirred, opening her eyes and smiling up at him. "Merry Christmas." "Merry Christmas," he replied, kissing her forehead. They went downstairs together, hand in hand. When Margaret arrived mid-morning with the other staff, she found them in the kitchen making breakfast together, laughing at Julian's terrible pancake flipping skills. Well, Margaret said, her eyes twinkling. "Looks like Christmas brought some gifts after all." "Merry Christmas, Margaret," Sofia said, glowing with happiness. "Best Christmas present I have seen in years," the cook replied. Beaming Thomas and Robert arrived shortly after, and when they saw Julian and Sofia together, genuinely smiling, They exchanged knowing looks. "Told you the girl would change him," Thomas whispered. "Best thing that ever happened to this house," Robert agreed. Throughout the day, the mansion transformed. Julian suggested getting a Christmas tree. Sofia decorated it with enthusiasm while he watched, content just to see her joy. They cooked dinner together with Margaret's help, and for the first time, the long dining table did not feel empty. That evening, as snow began to fall gently outside, Julian and Sofia stood by the window watching it together. "Who would have thought," Sofia mused, "that slipping in a towel would lead to this?" Julian laughed, a genuine, full laugh that made everyone in the house stop and smile. Most unconventional beginning to a relationship ever. "Are we in a relationship?" she asked, looking up at him. He turned her to face him fully, his hands on her waist. "If you will have me?" "Grumpy attitude and all. Think I can manage," she said, smiling. He kissed her softly. "I love you, Sofia Martinez. I probably have since the moment you asked about my shoulders." "I love you too, Julian Blackwood." Frowny face and all. From the kitchen, Margaret wiped a happy tear from her eye. Thomas and Robert shook hands, their bet about the timing now meaningless compared to the joy of seeing their employer finally happy. The Blackwood estate, once cold and silent, was now filled with warmth and laughter. And it all started with one terrified woman, one unexpected spider, one fateful towel. And a Christmas Eve that changed everything. As snow continued to fall on Christmas night, Julian held Sofia close. Finally understanding that the best gifts in life are the ones you never see coming, and somewhere in the house, there was probably still a spider, completely unaware that it had played Cupid in the most unusual love story ever told.